Have you heard about disasters at a destination wedding? I've got some good ones for you, so hold on. Hey, this is Jack with Vacationese. We've been planning destinations weddings for a while. I have a lot of friends of mine that have been planning destination weddings in the travel industry. And we were really recently at a conference and we were talking about destination wedding disasters that either have happened to us, our clients, or we've been told about stories from the resorts. And I thought if you're planning a destination wedding, you may learn from some of these things that have happened to other people. So let me give you some things that have happened that I'll call destination wedding disasters. So here, these are all actual things that have happened. I know you may not believe some of them. It's crazy, but let's go through some of them. This one I'll call flight issues. Number one was, how's this? When you book your flights or your guests book their flights, this is very important, especially if there's a connection. Make sure to look at the connection time. Why? We had a bride and groom miss their connection and almost missed their wedding date because by the time they were able to get on another flight, it was another day. They had to spend the night at the airport. Now this is important. When you book your flights, the airline you book with will normally show what the connection time is. Now even though the airline will put the flight connection there and say that's what we in the travel industry call a legal flight, you really need to look at it. As an example, if you're connecting through a big airport like say Phoenix or Dallas or JFK or Los Angeles or Atlanta, you need minimally on the flight going to your destination wedding, I would say 2 hours. Because in some cases you're going from one terminal to the other. In Atlanta and Dallas you're taking a tram or a people mover like a monorail train. So funny thing is, I looked at taking a flight from Philadelphia to Cabo. The connection time with American was 50 minutes. They do it. They're booking the tickets. But here's the problem. If you miss your flight, they don't really care. They're going to tell you go stand in line and they'll try to help you get on the next flight. The problem is that next flight could be tomorrow. It could be the next day. Here's the other thing that can happen. So let's say you get on the next flight and maybe you were in first class or maybe you had a great premium economy seat. Well, on that next flight, maybe the only thing they have are 2 middle seats right next to the bathroom. So the thing you need to learn from this again is make sure when you book your flights, your guests book their flights, you look at the connection time. And if the connection time is less than an hour and a half to 2 hours, do not book that flight because there's a likelihood they're not holding the plane for you, even though you're on their prior flight. So don't book flights with minimal connection times at bigger airports. Now, here's another destination wedding disaster, again related to flights. We tell our clients, we will not book you on Spirit. We will not book you on Frontier. Why? Because they have a tendency to cancel flights. Here's the destination wedding disaster. The parents of a bride and groom had booked themselves on Spirit. Guess what? They waited at the airport. They delayed the flight. They delayed the flight. And finally they delayed the flight. And then after about 8 hours of delaying the flight, they canceled the flight. Now, the parents of the bride and groom had decided to go the day before the destination wedding. We will always advise that brides and grooms go at least 2 days before their destination wedding, and parents should at least go 2 days before the destination wedding. Well, here's what happened with this couple. The parents of the bride and groom, they delayed the flight. When Spirit canceled the flight out to me, there were no other flights out because it was about 1 in the morning. So what happens is Spirit says to the parents of the bride or the groom, I don't remember which, here's your 2 options. We can put you on our next flight, which was 2 days later, which means they would have missed their child's destination wedding, or here's a refund. Okay, so the parents took the refund. The refund was $177 or $180 as I recall, and they said, we can have you rebooked on American. Just go down there. Well, the American flight was over $1,000. I don't recall it was $1,000 more per person or it was $1,000, but it was substantially more. Now the funny thing is we don't book the flights typically. This father and mother of the groom called to see how we could help. Our team member said, look, I can help, but you're at the airport. Book it right there with American because it's not going to be any less. And we gave them the price and it was relatively the same. They actually, now get this, they actually were trying to decide if they're going to go to their own child's wedding because the flights were more. So again, the moral of that story is do us a favor, do yourself a favor, do your travel partner, do your friends and family, whoever's wedding it is, do not book a Spirit or Frontier flight within a day of the event of the destination wedding, because if they cancel your flight, you're probably not going to be attending the wedding. Okay, now this is also an interesting one. When we and most other travel companies that specialize in destination weddings will put a wedding package together for our clients, we include the transportation from the airport to the hotel and from the hotel back to the airport, included in the price of the 4 or 5 night stay. We recently had a client about a year or so ago that said, look, I am trying to make this package as affordable for my guests as possible. So I would like you to pull the transfers out. And the transfers were probably about $100 per person because it was pretty far from the airport. I'd like you to pull that out and we'll let everybody do it on their own. I advised them, not a great idea, but if that's what they wanted to do, it was fine with me. But again, I stressed, I don't suggest that. Ultimately, we had nothing but problems. We had people calling us from the airport, which there was nothing we could do. We had people that were taken to the wrong hotel by transfer companies. We had people that perceived they were going to get Ubers, but there were no Ubers in this destination. We had people that were offered free rides from the airport to the hotel by one of the timeshare companies or upgraded rides. And ultimately, they were taken from the airport to a timeshare lunch presentation for 3 hours and ultimately taken. It's a bad experience. We also were told that on the way home, because this resort was so far in the middle of nowhere, that they could not get enough taxis to come and pick people up. So ultimately, they ended up working with the hotel's tour desk to get transfers back. But the transfers back one way were more than what we were going to put in for the whole trip. So my suggestion on this one, so that your guests and you all make it to your destination wedding, is if you are working with a travel provider and they're suggesting to you that there should be transfers as part of your package, the transportation, please accept our knowledge and advice and include them so that this way we are assured that your guests make it to your destination wedding and back to the airport safe and smooth. Now we hear about outside vendor fees and people want to bring their own vendors and things like that. And if you've seen my videos and you've talked to resorts, you know this is a hot topic, that the resorts are making it very, very hard for you to bring an outside vendor in. Periodically they'll allow it and they may charge fees. Here's a great one that happened to us a couple years ago. We had a client, a bride, who found her own DJ, and the DJ was going to provide their own lighting and their own dance floor and their own DJ booth. I didn't know the vendor. Now, it doesn't mean I know everybody, but most of the more popular DJs I knew that were in that destination. They talked to the resort. The resort said they kind of heard of the vendor but had never worked with them. But again, the bride paid the outside vendor fee to use the DJ, who she said to me she saw on YouTube and was amazing and was substantially less money than the resort's vendors or the approved vendors from the resort. Ultimately, they paid the DJ, gave him the playlist, and guess what? The DJ did not show up for the wedding. They called, they emailed, they texted, WhatsApped, nothing. The DJ took the money, ultimately did not show up. Luckily, somehow, some way, my understanding is the resort last minute was able to get a DJ, but they didn't, of course, have the light show and all the other stuff. So moral of that story is, yes, the resorts are tough to work with outside vendors, wanting you to use inside vendors, but to not have a destination wedding disaster. My suggestion is this: if the resort has internal vendors, work with them if you like them. Yes, they may be slightly more expensive. If they allow outside vendors and you propose a vendor, ask the resort, have you ever heard of this vendor? If they say no, don't book that vendor. These resorts, the teams at the resorts, know the good vendors and the bad vendors. And if they don't know a vendor, that's a warning to me. So again, if the resort says they don't know them or they don't work with them, don't try to save money, because if a vendor takes your money and doesn't show up, there's nothing you can really do about it. This destination wedding example is one that I actually was part of. I always warn clients that when we are planning a destination wedding, yes, it's about you, the bride and groom, but it's also about your guests. We need to learn about you and your guests, because your guests are going on a vacation that you are planning on their behalf, and they have no say in. So I always suggest to clients is that you may want this amazing 6-star expensive resort, but if it's out of the guest budget, then don't do it, because there's a high likelihood your numbers will drop of attendees because of the cost. We had a client a couple years ago who fell in love with the resort, which was amazing, no question. We started with 30 rooms and ultimately ended up with 6 rooms booked. Why? Because the price was just too high. We kept getting calls from guests saying, I want to go to the wedding, but I can't afford it. Can I stay for one night? Can I get a day pass? Can I do this? I'm going to do an Airbnb. The answer was, all we could say was no, 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 because this specific resort was a boutique resort, and their answer was, we do not do day passes. So it's a disaster if you invite 60, 70 people to come and only 8 show up, because ultimately you're going to be questioning your guests, your friends and family, why aren't you at my wedding? And the likelihood is they'll have excuses, but the last excuse they're ever going to say is, because you picked a resort that is too expensive. Now here is a true destination wedding disaster, just a true destination wedding disaster that happened to us within the past 6 months. It's called passports. On our website, we talk about passports. On every invoice we send, we talk about passports. Well, how's this? About 2 weeks prior to the wedding, the bride calls me and says, hey Jack, I have a slight problem. My groom does not have a passport. And I say, that shouldn't be a problem. I have companies that we can work with that can expedite a passport and get one in 2 or 3 days. She says, well, that's great, but he has something in his background that won't legally allow him to get a passport. Okay, I didn't ask any further questions, but I did call the company we work with who kind of filled me in, because I know there's certain reasons. The bottom line is, at that point, the bride said to me, and this was within I'm going to say a week or 2 of the wedding, I need to cancel my wedding. And I said, you can't cancel your wedding because you've got, I don't remember, 30, 40 guests that are fully paid, no travel insurance, you're paid, all your vendors are paid. If you cancel your wedding, you're going to lose a substantial amount of money, and your friends will lose money. I said, I have an idea. If your groom can't go, let's do this. Let's talk to the team at the resort, see if we can do a Zoom wedding. He's at home, you and everybody are there, maybe you pay for some TVs there and someone to video, and ultimately we work this out with the team at the resort. But at the end of the day, make sure up front, if you're doing a destination wedding, and it is to an international destination, 2 things. One is, everybody that is attending either has a passport that is valid at the time of travel, and in some cases 6 months after the time of travel, and if they don't, they can get one, and if they can't, don't plan the destination wedding if it's the bride or the groom. Now here is my last destination wedding disaster, and this is something we've heard about multiple times. If you're talking to me and helping plan your destination wedding, one of the things I will always stress is we do not like to have your departure date the date after your reception. So if you're getting married on Saturday and you have your party Saturday night, I don't like to have people leave on Sunday. And I explain to people multiple reasons why. But the biggest reason is because it's a party on Saturday night. We had a wedding not too long ago where a substantial number of people on a Sunday were calling our customer care number because they were drunk out of their minds, had an amazing time at the wedding, and missed the transfer from a hotel that was over 2 hours to the airport. They couldn't get the hotel to get them transfers and ultimately missed their flight. So now they wanted us to extend their stay and change their transfers. And believe it or not, they thought they should get all this for free. So bottom line is, these are some destination wedding disasters that either we've been part of or friends of mine have been part of, but we don't want them happening to you. So thanks for watching the video, and I'm Jack with Vacationies.